Hey guys, it's Emma Vigling with TYT Politics, coming to you from a very well-lit studio. I know I'm not in my little office with the daybed anymore, so you guys can stop complaining about it. But I want to talk a little bit more about the out-of-touchness, that's not a word, but it continues to be ridiculous, of the Democratic establishment figures who still think that they can just rebrand the Democratic Party with some more money and some more varnish, and everything's going to be okay. So a Democratic super PAC that you may know about called Priorities USA, they're launching an initiative to figure out what went wrong in 2016. I have like a pretty easy solution for them. Watch the Young Turks. They're not going to do that. They kind of hate us, so that's not going to happen. But isn't their initiative kind of like hiring a drug addict's drug dealer to host his intervention for him? Like, it doesn't make much sense. They shouldn't be anywhere near this rebranding and this revamping effort, but they're just going to throw money at the problem and see what happens. So they say that this new initiative, Priorities USA, that they're putting forward, involves both Clinton and Sanders people. They hired Hillary Clinton's press secretary, former press secretary Brian Fallon, and then they say they also hired Simone Sanders, who worked for the Bernie Sanders campaign. But anyone who is not a political junkie may not know that Simone Sanders kind of jumped ship very quickly after Bernie Sanders' campaign started going a little bit south. So you may think, oh, Simone Sanders, yeah, I saw her on TV and she was a really good Bernie Sanders surrogate, but she's not like Jeff Weaver. She's not someone who's been involved in the Bernie Sanders campaign for a long time. She's not someone who, I would say, really represents the progressive movement. So once again, it's crumbs and pretending like they're really putting Bernie Sanders people and progressives into these initiatives when they're not actually doing it. So don't be fooled. This is an establishment initiative run by establishment Democrats. Okay? You got that? So let me read what they're actually trying to do. A major Democratic super PAC embarking on perhaps the party's only comprehensive public effort to assess what went wrong in 2016 released their first findings on Monday, assessing missed opportunities among what it has determined are two key voting groups. By the way, the fact that this is an NBC article, I'll put it in the description later, the fact that NBC is saying that this is the party's only comprehensive public effort. This isn't the party. This is a super PAC associated with the party. And if they are the party so much, like Justice Democrats is the same exact thing. But NBC would never write an article about how Justice Democrats is the other effort in the party to assess what's going on. Because money and big interests are associated by the mainstream press as being directly involved in these parties. So that just annoyed me about how NBC was framing it. Priorities USA, which spent nearly $200 million supporting Hillary Clinton last year, do you hear that? $200 million. Commissioned two Democratic pollsters to two blocks. The first is a group they've identified as swing voters who went from voting for President Obama to President Trump. The second is turnout voters who lean Democratic but stay home on Election Day last year, such as millennials and African Americans. How about I save you all of that money and let you know why they didn't turn out to vote for that candidate. They didn't like that candidate and her policies. So Hillary Clinton did end up adopting some policies. Her college tuition plan was pretty great after Bernie Sanders compromised with her on it. But you know what? No one believed her for good reason. Because she was lying and said that she had both a public and a private position. So I'll save you all that money, Priorities USA. Why don't you hire me as $1 million consultant and it'll save you a shit ton. Throw more donor money at the problem. You know, how much good could that money be being put towards? It's really sad. That's how much money they need to be spending on stuff like this. Oy. So again, that's another way for them to put varnish and rebrand the party and just buff it up a little bit. I guess that's as much as I know about car maintenance. Sorry guys, my car knowledge isn't really great. And they could have access to all the information in the world, like we do, like on the internet, but they would still come to the same conclusion. Let's just go after Trump, which is what is said here in the quote by the chairman of Priorities USA. Our initial research clearly shows that there are real opportunities to increase turnout and to reach swing voters who are already finding out that Donald Trump and the Republican Party will consistently turn their backs on the American people, said Priorities USA Chairman Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri, is that what I said? Guy Cecil. That was actually really unintentional. But Priorities USA never understood so fully, will never understand so fully why people didn't like Hillary Clinton. It's because they spent $200 million on Hillary Clinton, and they took that money from the corporations and the rich and funneled it into her campaign. And by the way, who is Guy Cecil? Not Guy Fieri, I'm so sorry. That was a Food Network reference. Oh, right. Guy Cecil was the political director for Hillary Clinton's 2008 campaign, which was an atrocious campaign that was extremely vicious that lost to President Obama. And they tried to paint him as not that American, and that did begin and did stoke some of the racist flames that we saw throughout his 8 years. So this Guy Cecil, I have to read it before so I don't say the wrong name again. He's the one who's leading this initiative, so I have a lot of faith that they're going to come up with a great solution. The article continues. Cecil will formally unveil the findings of what they're calling Project Blueprint at a conference later this week. Later, he plans to travel the country to share the research with Democratic officials. I feel really good about that. The research, based on surveys of Obama and Trump voters and 3 sets of focus groups in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Florida, argued swing voters are already having some buyer's remorse about Trump. They were drawn to Trump by his businessman persona and the perception that he's not a typical politician, according to the group. So Priorities USA suggests Democrats work to undercut that image, especially among non-college educated women. I just can't deal with the image talk all over again. And their research found that the congressional Republicans are far less popular than Trump, with Obama-Trump voters creating another potential avenue of attack. You know what? Increasing turnout wouldn't be that hard, but the Democratic Party has been a failure in the 21st century. And they don't have the right branding, which is what they're talking about here, another rebranding effort. How about you come to them with policy and then they'll actually support you? Yes, it's the outsider mentality for sure, but you know why people want an outsider? Because of the failings of the Democratic Party. It's not just appearing more like an outsider, it's actually having the policies of an outsider. And that's why people gravitated to Bernie Sanders. But again, because it's not about policy for them, they think it's not about policy for Americans. Because they're rich and sitting on their ass and eating cake and caviar, they think it's fine for everyone else. It's not about a PR team. It's about legislation. And it's deeply concerning to me that they don't understand that at all and are just going to say Donald Trump is bad, bad, bad. So I'm just assuming that Guy Cecil and Priorities USA, that they're going to conduct this autopsy of the Democratic Party and they're going to find that Cory Booker is the solution. But no matter how hard you target millennial voters, if you do not have a message and substance behind that message, you're done. And we're going to have more and more of this fascistic, destructive party ruling our country. The Republicans don't stand for anything, and we should not allow them to have one seat in this country. But this is where we are right now. So these guys' time is done. And if honestly, if they put Perez in as DNC chair, I encourage you guys to just get as involved with Justice Democrats as possible. We're going to circumvent them and make them irrelevant. Because right now, it seems like these people aren't learning anything at all. And the fact that mainstream press is saying that that a Priorities USA initiative is equivalent to the Democratic Party's initiative, and that it's the same thing, means that the mainstream press is going to treat it just the same as they did before. They did this with Iraq. They felt a little bit bad and started to call Bush out a little bit, and then went back to the same thing under Obama. and now they're feeling a little bit bad, and they're calling Trump out on stuff. And then as soon as the Democrats start to even things out for the establishment, they're going to go back to their same old tricks. That's why we have to create pressure with independent media and progressives with an equivalent movement. Not in money, for right now that's not going to happen, but in a voice. And that just means coming together and telling the establishment that. Alright guys, have a great day. Happy Valentine's Day. Mwah.